Cliff Avril is joining us from Seattle. The Seahawks tonight face Philadelphia. So I've been saying this, is that Seattle has all the ingredients to be great. A coach, playmakers, Russ, special teams. The question is the pass rush. So I watched them play the last game, and Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams in the box, and then L.J. Collier. And I thought to myself, okay, Cliff, this is interesting. This is a pass rush, which will obviously elevate the secondary. You have to cover less. So your takeaway on Seattle right now, you cover them, you talk about them daily. Where are they at defensively?
Man, they've taken some major strides. You know, I think, one, it's a little unfair because a lot of people, obviously, of years past, people keep comparing them to the LOB days and all those different things. So they keep trying to recreate those things. But I think this is a different team, a different identity, and they're figuring it out, right? You talk about Jamal Adams being a part of the rush. Bringing in Dunlap, I think, was huge. Obviously, Bobby, KJ Wright, all those guys play a big role. But more so than anything, I think the biggest thing is the camaraderie piece, right? Most of these guys just got here. You talk about Jamal, he just got here. Dunlap just got here a few weeks ago. So they have to build that camaraderie and that trust in one another, and it's starting to come together. And that's what's exciting about it, because they still have some more games to build that camaraderie to try to make a run in the playoffs.
Now, by the way, Chris Carson, the running back, plays tonight, and it's interesting because you've been in Pete Carroll's locker rooms. He likes a physical offensive team. That's what he likes. He liked it at USC. He likes to run downhill. Chris Carson has struggled. He can't stay healthy. In college, that was a bit of an issue. Should the Seahawks rely on Carson, or to you, if the Seahawks offense is humming, what do they look like?
Well, one, should they bring him? Yes. If he's a healthy Carson, you bring him back. And the reason I say that is because he is very much respected in the NFL. You know, the reason he's been banged up is because of the way he plays. You know, super aggressive. He's looking for contact, all those different things. So I think if he is in the lineup, it's the fear of, right? It's the threat of having him out there. If they hand him the ball off, you know, the linebackers got to get downhill immediately. And then that opens up for the play action. We already know Russ is one of the best deep ball throwers in the game right now. So if you add the play action to it with the threat of run with Carson back there, it gets real scary back there. So, yes, I do think you have to bring him along. And if he's able to play, you bring him. Just, again, simple fact of the threat of what he can do and how well he's played in the past. It makes guys want to kind of play up on the line of scrimmage, and Russ goes out there and cooks them.
You know, you played, there's the New England dynasty, and many thought Seattle would be a dynasty. You were great and you were young. But we say this about the NBA all the time. Dynasties in all sports, they never last as long as you think. There's free agency, there's injuries, there's egos. So I look at Kansas City and I think, okay, is this going to be the offensive version of what the Seahawks were going to be? When you watch Kansas City, are there any things you worry about long-term? Because the Seattle thing, we thought it was an 8-year thing, and it became like a 3-year thing. Can Kansas City become the dynasty Seattle didn't? Anything you see you like or don't like?
Well, the big thing with dynasties in professional sports in general, right? You just mentioned injuries. You mentioned free agency, contracts. All these different things tend to have guys that move on, and guys want to cash out. And I'm not mad at them, but you do lose that dynasty feel. But what I think is special about these guys is more of Patrick Mahomes. You know, you got Tyreek Hill. You got some of these young players that can play together for a while. You know, some of these guys are already on their second deal. So you talk about Kelsey and some of those guys, they're on their second deal already. So they'll be together for a little bit. The thing that can damage them and hurt them is when it becomes the ego. Okay, I want the ball more, or I'm the reason why we're winning, or all these different things can play a role and throw a wrench in this dynasty. But right now, these guys are cooking. They're doing some special things. And what's fun about these guys more so than anything is just the play, the way they run plays, all the movement, all the motions, you know, the reverses, all the things that you did as a kid. They're doing it and they're being successful at it. So, and when guys are having fun like that, I think guys will want to stay there, and that's how you'll have end up having a dynasty.
You know, I often say this about the Packers is I say they're the convertible sports car of the NFL. Nobody looks cooler when the sun's out. You know, September, October football. And then it gets cold and you can't drive the convertible sports car. And I watch Green Bay. And when they're playing with a lead, when they're comfortable, when Aaron's comfortable, it is a thing of beauty. Then last week, they can't stop the run game for the Colts, and Aaron sits in the bench and watches the second half. So I watch him last night roll over a bad Chicago team, and I think to myself, what did I learn? They're great with a lead. What do you make? When you were in Seattle, you guys were such a physical team. Green Bay's good, but they're not physical. Do they compare to anybody during your Seattle run that you knew was talented, but you knew they didn't want to get in the octagon, that they were a finesse team over a power team?
Oh man, I would say with Aaron and those guys, as far as for being physical, they've really never been that physical team that say the Seahawks had with the defense or anything like that. But they've always had playmakers. They've always had Aaron Rodgers who can go out there and make any receiver look bad or look good, right? Because that was the big question going into the season. It's like, where's his weapons at? We know Adams, but where are his weapons? And yet he's making things happen. As far as for being physical, I don't think they need to be because, again, they have A-Rod leading the way. He's seen so much football. He's done so much. And you're right. It's always easier when you're on top and you don't have too many things to worry about. But if you're on top, if you have a quarterback that can get you on top, you don't have to worry about those other issues that you just mentioned. But they look great. I mean, they have their moments where they look bad, but you're always in the ball. It's kind of like Russell Wilson. You're always in a ball game when you have A-Rod throwing the rock. You like Seattle tonight over Philadelphia? What are your thoughts about the game? Of course. I definitely like the Seahawks. They're trending upwards on the other side of the ball, on the defense side of the ball. We talked about Jamal Adams. We talked about Dunlap, Bobby, all those guys. They're catching their rhythm. They're catching their stride. And then you flip the side. You got Russell Wilson, and what obviously he's been playing at a high level with DK and Tyler Lockett. But with Philly, I think the question mark is going to be with Wentz. He hasn't been necessarily playing that well, and I like my odds with the defense trending upwards and Wentz kind of struggling right now. Good stuff, Cliff Avril, former Seahawk, 10 years in the league. Good talking to you, buddy. Thanks. Always a pleasure. You bet. The weather can be unpredictable. Make it less so. Michelin Endurance XD silicone wiper blades last 2 times longer than other blades. Get them only at Walmart. So Trent Dilfer will join us last hour. So here it's funny about Aaron Rodgers. I would vote him into the Hall of Fame first ballot. I always liked him more than Brett Favre. I think he's more careful with the football. I think he's just a really smart guy. But when I watch Green Bay, it's like, just let me see him against Tennessee in Week 16. Let me just watch him. Because like last night, what do I gain? Crappy division opponent, playing with a lead. Akeem Hicks is out, so they're not going to have much of a pass rush. You're going up against Trubisky. It's not that they're not gifted. It's not that I don't like them. But to me, there's a certain sensibility to the Packers where there's about 3 games a year. They're going to go 13-3. If you look at their schedule, they're going to go 13-3. Now, the good news is many of the teams they play, the toughest matchups for them are mostly AFC teams. They do not match with the Steelers. They don't match with the Steelers' physical play. They do not match up with Tennessee. I do not think they'd match up with the Baltimore. The good news for the Packers is some of the teams in the NFC they play are not always that physical. So that's the good news. But I watched last night, and my takeaway was, what do I get out of this? I know they're going to win. They're playing with a lead. It's a crappy team. And I looked at their schedule this morning, and I'm like, they're going to go 13-3. They'll probably finish 1 or 2. They're going to get home games in the playoffs. If they have to